Hello and welcome to today's video. This time, finally, I'm getting round to bagging up my first 100 vintage Penguin paperbacks. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so a little bit of preparation first of all. So I've pulled out the first 100 in the studio here, and it is quite a sight. I shall take a little photo so you can see exactly what I've got in front of me here, because they do take up quite a bit of room. And what I've decided to do is, in numerical order, is to go through all my sort of vintage Penguin books, starting right at number 1 here, work my way through the whole lot and bag them up. Now, finally, I've got some of these, which are BCW, that's the brand name, and these are dedicated paperback book polypropylene bags. 2-inch flat, there's 100 in each pack here, and I was able to get these off Amazon. And, well, we're just going to give it a go, really. I'm not skeptical, but I'm a little bit worried about just how good these are actually going to look once they've been done. But I think for the first 500 penguins or so, because of their value, predominantly, and also with the wartime ones, between say 300 and 500, the fragile nature of the actual books, I think they just need to be bagged up. It is as simple as that. So I've got myself some Magi tape. Now, this Magi tape is a bit small for my big hands. Usually when I do lots of taping, I use this beast here, which is this massive tape dispenser. So what I'm going to do, and I won't bore you with this part of it, but I'll get loads of little bits of tape lined up along here, and that's what I will use to tape these bags down, tape the paperbacks down. But this is also really good heavy weight, and I suspect that even though I'm going to try and bag the paperbacks nice and flat, they will retain a bit of air. And I think they're going to need a bit of a pressing down over a short period of time until the bags are looking really good. Now, I don't know if these bags are going to be able to handle some of the thicker books. There's not that many thick ones in the first 100, but there are a few. Certainly the omnibus edition of number 99 and 100 put together into one volume, that may not fit in this one. So I've got some regular comic bags. Now, this is what I use just for bagging magazines, but also these are sort of the things that I've used in the past to bag paperbacks, my sort of rare ones and that. Now, the thing about these is acid free. These say that they're acid free. Now, these bags here do not say that anywhere. They're polypropylene bags, so I don't believe these are acid free. However, we're going to I don't think there's anything better around. There's no self-adhesive flap. We are going to need to sort of sellotape them down, but we'll just see how we get on. It's a bit of an experiment, as I said, but I think it's one which is certainly overdue. As I said, what I've been doing in the past is putting a book like that, which it definitely needs protection. I've just been putting it into a comic bag and folding it round, and I've been using traditional sellotape rather than magic tape. And the reason I'm moving to magic tape is because if I want to get in one of these books to read it, or to look something up to see what printing it is, or some other detail on it, when I open this bag now, these are self-adhesive ones, this bag is pretty much, it's a one-use affair. You see the tape's a bit horrible. I could probably reuse that, but it's never going to look quite as nice, is it? So I'm just going to discard this one now, although it might seem a bit of a waste, and I'm going to use the dedicated bags going forward, and I'm going to seal them up with Magi tape rather than regular tape. So that's enough preamble. I shall get a load of bits of this all sort of racked and ready, so and then I'll be back and we'll get started. Now, the only other thing I want to do, all these books have been methodically gone through and cleaned inside, so there shouldn't be any pencil marks or anything like that, any old book dealer like prices or anything. But what they may have done, because the last time I gave these a bit of a clean was about 1.5 years ago, I'm just going to give them a final little dust off along the top edge just before they go into a bag. And I think what we'll do these in batches of 5. Now, some of these, in fact, all of these early ones, not sure about Arial, but the proof of Arial, but the other ones were originally issued in dustwrappers, and what I tend to do, if I've got the dust wrappers but they're looking a bit on the rough side, I've taken them off, so the dust wrappers are stored separately. So in a lot of cases I do have dust wrappers, they're just because the books look better without them. I've taken them off and they're sort of stored flat. So this is the first sort of proof of the pudding. Is this going to be wide enough for this early and pretty scarce penguin? They don't slide in very easily for starters. Okay, well, that actually looks all right. I'm quite pleased with that. So I'm going to have 2 bits of tape. I'm just going to go slightly over the edge like that so it remains nice and tight. And the good news is, with magic tape, you can get in and out of it without any trouble at all. Well, the only downside is you're going to have the seam of the paperbacks looking like that. But I'm not going to fold the corners in. I'm just going to leave them like that. There's a little bit of air, and in actual fact, much better than I thought. There's no like pocket of air that's sort of stuck inside. That instantly sits quite flat, and well, I think that looks really nice. That looks absolutely fine. So much easier to hold in your hand when the book is like that. I got to say, you don't feel a little bit on edge, because I do with these early ones, because they are, expensive books, and I want to keep them as nice as possible. But at the same time, I do use my penguins a lot in my videos, and I refer back to them, and sometimes I get better copies come my way, and I like to see which one was the better example. But that looks lovely, doesn't it? Oh yeah, that's great. That is really, really nice, in actual fact. So we'll just do these first 5, and then we'll have... Now this one here, this area, was for the 50th anniversary. You might remember that Penguin released a box set of the first 10 in 1985, and that was the first... it was a reprint of the first 10 Penguins. And this was an edition that was just had this belly band around it. To celebrate the anniversary, and I think it was just given away to book dealers at the time. I used to have a run of Ariel. I used to collect all the different printings of it, and I sort of regret getting rid of them now, because it was quite a fun thing to collect if you're a Penguin collector. And I actually had 2 or 3 copies of number 1 in first printing, and I gave one to my Penguin rat on his retirement. He was called Douglas. He's still around today. In fact, I saw Douglas last year. Very, very nice chap. He's in good health, and I gave him a copy of Ariel, which he says he's still got. Now this one is a bit too, with the belly band on it, it's actually a tiny bit too tight. It's just not slipping in very well. Let's give it another try. But this may be our first one that we can actually put in the new bags. I'll try it again, see if I can stop the band catching. I'd like to get them all in bags if possible, but they are fiddly. They are fiddly. Well, I don't think it's going to have it, I don't think it's going to do it. It just is too tight, isn't it? Not going in at all. There's no sort of leeway. Yeah, it's not going to do it. So that is our first failure. So what I'm going to do, because as I said, I do want to bag them all, I'm going to have to resort to the comic bag method, which I didn't particularly want to do, because as you've seen, they didn't look so good. But if we want to keep everything bagged up, this is going to be this one's just a little, with the belly band, you see it's a little bit too wide. It just won't go through the gap well enough. So we can still bag it up. But these, I can already feel this bag taking in a lot more air than the paperback bag. So what I'll do is slide it over to that side, push a bit more air out. And then we'll go one over this side. And then I'll fold it over like that, and we're going to need 2 more bits. But yeah, you can, it does need a good pressing down, but that actually has pulled, or pushed rather, most of the air out there. There's that one. Well, there we are. It's bagged up. I think that looks as good as it's going to get. I'm just wondering, because these other ones, that top edge is going to really poke out. So I'm thinking this will be a bit of a test of the magic tape. See if we can get, yeah, that one's come up all right. There we are. So, yeah, look, I've taken the magic tape off in both instances, and I'll fold it over, but I'm going to fold it so that that lip folds down like that. There we are. And I think that's one of the reasons why using magic tape is going to end up being the way to go. Right, back to a more standard one now, with Farewell to Arms by Mr. H. There we are. Now there are people who collect the variations of these first 10. So the very, very first printings had Farewell to Arms, but on the back it didn't have the A. So it didn't say A Farewell to Arms, it just said Farewell to Arms. And I don't know of the first 10 how many I've got which are of that initial batch before it got caught, but we'll have a look while we're doing this. That might be quite fun to check. And then there's number 3 here, which is Poets Pub, a pub for poets. Now this one I think it's got a bit of something poking out. Yes, it's the dust wrapper remnants. I'm going to take that out because I've got a bag full of dust wrapper bits and pieces, so including, you know, actual dust wrappers, but bits and pieces of some where the dust wrappers have come apart, so I'll keep that in with those. See, when they're actually in the bags, they do slide in quite nicely, but I've got to say, these ones here, there's going to be quite a few books that I've got that are just not going to fit in these bags. They're going to have to go in comic bags simply because they're too thick. They are too thick. There we are. So that's the first 5, but we've only done 3 books. Well, I think they look quite nice. I'm quite pleased with those. It's not like they've got loads of air in them. They still look nice on the shelf, or they will do. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So if we have a look, so if you see the back of the proof of number 1, it just says Farewell to Arms, whereas this is the regular number 1. They've added a Farewell to Arms, and as far as I know, all 10 of the first 10 books, there is the early printings had Farewell to Arms on. So we'll see if any of mine have got a Farewell to Arms on. Sorry, just Farewell to Arms, because they're the earlier ones. Apparently, I don't think any one of the sort of the noted collectors who go for all the variations, which I definitely do not, because life is too short and I collect too many other things as well. I don't know if any of those sort of other collectors have got any themselves. The full set rather says number 4, number 5. This is number 6. This is Styles, but this is in just a standard comic bag, and once again it's not great, and I think it would look better in a dedicated paperback bag. So we'll debag this one now. Yeah, not the greatest of shape, this one. I think long term comic bags are not really the way to go, you know. So 4, 5, 6. There was the re-release of number 6, where we're on the links, and then number 7 as well. Okay, right. Oh, one thing I do need to do is give these a very gentle dust. Now, I don't think these particular ones have had, since I gave them a really good clean last time, when they're actually on the shelf, they've got a little, like, beer towels across them to stop any dust getting on them. But where they're stored at the moment is not a dusty area, you know. So I don't think they're really susceptible to dust like that. Yes, a bit of a shame I couldn't find a large tape dispenser for the magic tape, because although it's a lot more expensive than regular tape, I think it's worth it for these, you know. And for all the books that potentially I do want to occasionally read, you know. Yeah, I'm not going to deny they do look lovely bagged up. They really, really do. Perhaps they look better than I thought, but that's okay. Obviously, this is the more expensive one. Don't have a copy of this one in dustwrappers, sadly. Yeah, very, very nice, very desirable early penguin, that one. I do need to pause there and get some more tape sorted. Okay, this is the re-release, so this is 6A. It's very, very scarce, this one. Now this one's in a wrapper, and I'm hoping that we're not going to have any sort of issues with the wrapper catching on the bag here. Unlike, say, a Mylar bag, which I don't know if you've ever come across those, they can be almost like razors, you know. So let's see if this is going to go in smoothly or not. It may be that this book is just a tiny bit too big, I don't know. Is it going to go in? Well, it's in, it's borderline, isn't it? Will it? It's too tight. I could force that, but I don't want to force that on a book like that. So once again, I'm going to get a Silver Age bag. So that's a bit of a shame that so many of these early, well, that's 2 of the early penguins now, are too big to actually fit in it, in the dedicated paperback bag. So do bear that in mind, because that book is not particularly thick, but I think it is quite wide, because let's not forget, these are from the 1930s, mid-1930s, and they are, you know, the format wasn't quite as trim as it was today, or as exacting. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm a little disappointed that something like a standard penguin like that doesn't quite fit into the bags as we would want. You know what I mean? But there you go. That's why we're doing this. It's all a learning curve. There we are. But this is an absolute prime candidate for a book that definitely needed to be bagged up, because it's quite fragile, the dust wrapper in that. Trying to squeeze the air out a little bit better. That's just about done. Oh, I didn't go over the end flap there. So let's lift that up and reapply that, so I go over ever so slightly like that. There we are. And this one, I think, should slide in quite easily. It's not such a thick book, for starters. And there's no dust wrapper. No pesky dust wrapper. Oh, look. That has bust as I've gone in. So, well, this is live. I don't want to hide anything, because this could be your experience as well if you decide to go for it. But it's interesting because I've got lots of books from this period which are these sorts of dimensions, you know. And this is another one which is a little bit fiddly. But it has gone in. It has definitely gone in this time without actually ripping the bag. So I'm not sure how that bag managed to rip there when I was sticking this one in. But there we are. Obviously, when you're bagging modern books or stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, you're not going to have this problem. But these books are particularly fragile. So if we have a look at that batch of 5. There's no air there. So book 4, I don't think any of these were Farewell to Arms. No. 5, no. So none of those were Farewell to Arms, sadly. But there we are, 4, 5, 6, 6A and 7. There we are. Okay. Well, we're up to book 7 and we're already 20 minutes in. Blimey. Okay, here's the next 5, and once again I'll just give the top edges a dust off, but I don't think these are too bad at all. Now, there's some thick books there, and I suspect that we might be in the same situation where we can't actually bag them up because the books are too thick, these particular ones, you know. But we'll give it a try. So let's try book number 8. Now, I bought these bags off Amazon, and I'll pop a link to them below if you want to get some yourself. They were, in the UK, they were £13 for 100 bags. Each bag is 13 pence each. Each bag's 13p each. See, that one went in okay. Very frayed dust wrapper there. Now, when I ordered them, I always at Christmas, I always ask, if people don't know what to get me, I said, just get me some Amazon vouchers. I can always spend it on there, you know what I mean? So I had some to spend, and I thought, well, I've been meaning to start bagging my books for ages, literally for, well, I've been thinking about it for over a year that I really need to get on and do this. So I thought I'll buy a couple of 100, and they were showing as in stock, delivery 5 days. They're not held by Amazon themselves. They come through a third party. So I thought, well, fair enough. So, 5 days, that's fine over Christmas. I mean, I wasn't planning to do this until, well, now sort of mid-January, really, as I film this right now. And in effect, even though I ordered them like Boxing Day, they've actually taken almost 2 weeks to arrive, because they have come from the States. So they are imported. They're not held by Amazon UK at all. So if you are going to order some, then be prepared to, maybe order, not in bulk, but maybe order, a few hundred potentially, so that you don't have a massive wait or something, you know what I mean? Because you might end up, being a bit frustrated waiting for them. But, patience is a virtue. Now, I suspect this might be a bit too thick. Too many pages to fit in, I think. But we'll try. Well, see that? that's actually gone in okay, and I was pretty confident that that wasn't going to fit. But there it is, it's gone in. It does sort of keep the books sort of rigid, if you know what I mean. It sort of almost like straightens them out. Now I think this was the biggest one of this particular batch of 5, so this might struggle. We might need to put this in a mag bag, comic bag rather. Yeah, there ain't no way that's going in there. It's too big, governor. Too big for the bag. Well, I think possibly bagging the first 100 was maybe a little bit optimistic in one video, but we'll see if we can speed up at all. Obviously, when we get to the wartime ones, the books are really thin, so they'll slide in no problem. However, they're also quite delicate, so we're going to need to be careful when we slide them in that we don't do any more sort of damage to them than is already in place, because they are precarious little suckers. Yes, we've got the air problem with these. That's the only thing with these mag bags, or comic bags rather. Oh, there we are, that's got it. It's like you've got to catch it in the right way, and it expels the air. Of course, once these are on the shelf, they should look really nice. And then this is quite a thin one, so this should be absolutely fine. This should just slide in like a knife through butter. There we are. And when they're really, top quality, really nice condition, no issues at all. Just a couple of bits of tape there to finish it off. Look at that. That's gorgeous, isn't it? Okay, here's the next 5, and I've got some sellotape ready as well. Yeah, absolutely fine. There's no dust on those really at all. And let's see how we get on. This is a thinner one. We need to do these the other way around, so we're doing them in order. This is number 13, and the tiny, very top of the dust wrapper there is hanging on by a thread really. So if I can manage to get this into the bag without too much trouble, I'll be pleased. Okay, looks like we could be in business. Oh, look at that. It just popped off. Can you believe it? There we are. I want to make sure it all stays in there. And that is the fragile nature of these books, sadly. That the more that they're handled, the more fragile they become. And over time, of course, they're just going to be so brittle, which is one of the reasons why it's a great idea, if you've got books from this sort of era, to get them bagged up. Now I'm just going to pause there. I think we'll just change the angle slightly on the camera. There we are. Hopefully you can actually get to see a little bit better of what's going on. This is always a gorgeous one, this, the Thin Man. I do have a wrapper for it, but it's not pristine. But with outside the wrapper, it's just the business. Look at that. 1935. What a gorgeous book that is, isn't it? Now, is it going to fit? I think it should, We're starting to get a bit of a feel for which ones will and which ones won't. It was tight, but he's in okay. Because the last thing we want to do is force it so that it doesn't lie flat, and that's right on the borderline. but he's okay. Yeah, that's really nice. That's quite an expensive book, that one, but yeah, it lies flat. It's nice, and when you look at it like that, the actual join on the bag isn't as bad as I was expecting. Now this one here is in a bit of a precarious dust wrapper, as you can see. So I'm going to need to be careful sliding this into its bag. Thankfully, it's not the thickest of books, so I'm hoping it will go in okay. Yeah, so it's in, but you can see there's a tiny bit of the dust wrapper folded over there. Now I don't like that, it's really annoying, so I'm just going to use, oh, it's actually a bit that's come away, so once again let's slide that out. Slight dust wrapper loss, it happens unfortunately. These are so brittle. I mean, I'm surprised I've kept the dust wrapper on this one, because usually when they're this bad I tend to take them off and lay them flat in my dust wrapper box, you know, which I have shown on this channel. It's got some predominantly penguin wrappers, but it's got some albatross, it's got some pan ones as well, you know. There we are. I think that's as good as we're going to get it, you know. But that's still quite nice, and it lies flat, which is the main thing. And ultimately, it's not going to need to come out of that now unless someone really wants to read it, or if I've picked up a second one and I want to compare best conditions, you know. And this one's a little bit the worse for wear. I have already been through my penguins up to about number 1400, and I've got an upgrade list, which is, it's about 80 books that need to be upgraded. This is probably on it, I would think. It's a little bit rough. It's mainly wartime ones, of course, where the quality of the books, you know, when they were printed was so poor. You know, you're constantly looking for better quality ones, you know, ones which haven't had so much wear. This is just going to fit in. Now I suspect that there are bigger comic, and that's too tight. It's gonna warp the book. So I'm not gonna force that one in there. I'll leave that there. I'll do the one behind it, because this one is thinner. This one should be all right. That's gonna have to go in a comic bag. But I suspect that there are paperback bags which are a little bit more generous for the thicker book, you know. So, but as far as I could see, and I will double check on Amazon, there was only this one size offered through there. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do a bit more research on that, and if I do find a slightly thicker bag, I'll let you know. But for the meantime, we'll just keep doing these big thick ones in a comic bag, because we don't want to put extra pressure on them. Of course, by putting them in comic bags, they do use a bit more tape up as well. They use 5 bits of tape rather than 2. Just hear that the excel of expel of air. There we are. There we are. So they were. Yeah, I think they're looking all right. They are looking all right. Now this one, let's get the next 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 2, 18 and 20 are thick books in wrappers. Highly unlikely they're going to fit in the bags, but we'll just brush first of all. Yeah, there's next to no dust coming off these at all, which is quite nice. I don't think that's going to fit in these bags here. Even though you look at it like that, you can see there's a bit of wear either side, but that doesn't allow for the thickness. So this is, I'm not even going to bother attempting to slide that one in. I think we're going to need 2 comic bags. Now the comic bags, of course, I use Ultra Pro, but there's lots of different brands out there, and those are very, very easily available through eBay, which perhaps is a little bit quicker than getting Amazon to import them into the UK. So you won't have any trouble getting comic bags. So if you want to do this for all the books, then you can, but it does seem a bit of a waste, and the dedicated paperback bags do look really, really nice when they're actually on the books. I got to say, that does make quite a difference, much more than I thought it was going to. They are actually looking better than I thought, which is quite cool. Quite a bit of pressure on, and then it does take that air out. There we are. This one should be absolutely fine because it's quite a thin book, so we should be straight into the dedicated paperback bag on this one. Yeah, see, that's absolutely fine. Plenty of room. Final little squeeze the air out. Lovely. Now here's book number 20, and this is also a thickie. So straight into the comic bag with it. Stand up and Annie Spragg. Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea considering how the dust wrapper is quite a bit frayed on this particular one. So while we're here then, it would be very nice, because people will definitely find this video on YouTube, because lots of people ask me about bagging paperbacks and do I bag them, and generally, as I said, I generally don't. I've only started doing it now because these are of a value where I think they need to be protected. They're not, if I take them off the shelf or move them while they're on the shelf, I'm not doing them any favours, whereas when they're in these bags, they're a lot better protected, and that's what I'm sort of aiming for. But I would invite suggestions in the comments below. How are you looking after your paperback books? Do you bag them? Certainly, I know plenty of my viewers do bag their books. But £13 for 100. Depending on obviously how many books you've got, but it can become an expensive occupation, can't it? Just to bag the first 500 penguins is going to cost me 65 quid. But when you look at even one book, could easily cover that, if it's the right one. So you've got to think long term, and paying a little bit for protection is I think money well spent ultimately. Get that there. Slide that out. Corner's gone over. Of course, a good chance to make sure that the books don't have any folded over corners or anything like that one. That corner just caught, so I can pop that back in. I said I have been through the books inside now, and I'm up to about 1400 on my main series penguins, and I've been going through and cleaning the books religiously, giving the top edges a dust off, and going through and making sure all of the pencil markings are taken out, and I'd get them looking as good as I possibly can. I'm over on my dedicated book cleaning channel, so if you've not discovered that one yet, then please do. Now this one, this is I know it's on my upgrade list. This one is a very beaten up copy of number 22. But with Penguin, I've only really just started to get round to upgrading, because I only need one from the first 1,000 now to finish my run. I've only now sort of seriously started to look to upgrade the copies that I've got, and look for better ones, and I've had the opportunity really to get loads of upgrades over the years, and I've just turned those down in favour of getting books that I didn't have at all. But now that time has gone on, and I've always said your standards get higher and higher the longer you're a collector. My standards are quite high now, having had some real mint books through my hands. I'm sort of at that stage where I only want the very best now, but if it's all that's out there, then I'll happily take that instead. Right, let's get the next lot out. Okay, so books 23 to 27. Thickness wise, well, possibly Odd Craft might struggle, but the rest we might be okay. We might be able to just get them into normal bags, but we'll see. This one might be a bit borderline. Yeah, he's on the cusp, but he's in all right. But we have to, even when we've got it in, we have to make sure it lies flat, else we know the bag is too tight for it. Yeah, he's all right. We'll let it off this one time. So this video was planned to be the first bag in the first 100. I mean, it's already gone on 40 minutes. You tell me, shall I carry on? Should I just do the first 100? Let's see if the process speeds up a little bit, shall we? If it does, I'll carry on, because it would be nice to do a little series of these, bagging the collection up, particularly when we get to the wartime releases as well. I think that'd be really interesting, and it'll make a huge difference on these pre-war ones. Are quite robust anyway. It's not like, they were really well made. There wasn't any signs of a paper rationing or anything like that, which comes in in a few years' time, you know, as the Second World War approaches and Penguin started feeling the pinch with paper allowance and that, and things weren't quite as lavish as they once were. But these ones here are absolutely fine, you know, 35, 36. In fact, you don't really start to see it until about 38, 39. You start to see a little bit of a change. Here we are. I remember getting this one. I got that off Penguin book dealer Brian Kesterton. Absolutely loveliest of lovely chaps. It was when I first started collecting penguins back in the 80s. And he was so nice, and he would produce, you know, back then there was no internet, so it was a printed catalogue, and he would do one about every couple of months. And you had to just, it was first come first serve, so you had to just be lucky that your post arrived early and that you were on the line to him promptly, basically. That's not going to go. And you know, I remember he once had a full collection in. It was a pretty much full set. I've still got the original catalogues because they were so nice, and just for reference, really. And he had, at the time, this will give you an idea, at the time he had Biggles for sale for £50, and I was the second caller to get through. The first caller, that was the first bit they ordered, was Biggles. And what he did, which I thought was always, even to this day, I think is a really good idea, because in the end, it's the same old books that all the collectors are wanting. Everyone wants the same rare crime books, generally speaking. In his catalogue, he would just put a little asterisk next to the rarest books. And each person could order, say, 2 or 3 per catalogue. So everyone had the chance to get a couple of rarities off their list, you know? And I thought that's such a great way of doing it. And I wish some of the other dealers, you know, who are around today, not that there's that many, to be honest, but when they do their catalogues, I think rather than names out of a hat, maybe, that may be a fairer way of doing it. So everyone gets, you know, a few, you know. But there you go. It's down ultimately to the dealer in question. We're mere customers, aren't we? Let's be honest. You know, I've stuck those on without giving that much thought, in actual fact, because, yeah, I wanted that tape to go over the edge, so I wanted it to go over like that. And same on that end, so I'm going to put another little bit of tape on there to fold the end over like that. Lovely. There we go. One of my favourites, this. I'd love to get a better copy of this one, in actual fact, my man Jeeves. I really like PG Wodehouse, and I got it very early on. It was one that I wanted to really track down, so consequently I picked up the first copy that came my way, and I've never got around to actually upgrading it. So I'd like to get a really tip-top copy of my man Jeeves, and I think for a really nice one in a dust wrapper, you're probably looking at £30, something like that, for a really decent one. But I would actually pay that now for a really nice one. Early Wodehouse in paperback is not something that there's a lot of, but what there is particularly nice. And that's the very, very first appearance of Wodehouse in Penguin. Certainly not the last, but they do feel great. I've been really, really pleased with how these are looking, and you'll be able to get to have a decent look at these in a mo. Right, here's the next little wedge. 28, 29, 30, 31 and 32. All of these I think will fit in the normal bags okay, so we shouldn't need to go too far down the comic bag hole here. Okay. So I have had a few thoughts, go on, fit in, about what I might bag up going forward, you know. I thought what might be quite fun is if I themed it, so maybe my corgi vintage corky books, for example, of which I've probably only got about 100 anyway. So we could do like all of those in one video, for example. I could get some bags in and just do all of those in one hit. That's really tight. That's about as tight as it's ever going to get without too much trouble. Other things I thought, you know, some of my other like minor series that we could do in one hit, like my Badger books or something like that. But it's a good chance, it's an excuse in a way to get the books out and have another really nice look at them, and make them look as good as possible. Well, I didn't think I'd have any sort of issue with some of these, so I'm hoping that this just slides in. I don't think this is any thicker than the last book, but it's a little bit hard to tell sometimes. Go on. Is he going to do it? It's really frustrating if I can't get these in. Because this, I wouldn't class this as a particularly thick book. You know, there's lots of more modern books which are not this thick. And maybe I'm going to research and see if the paperback bags that I've got are just not quite big enough, which is really, really frustrating for these anyway. It's probably partly the time that they were made, the books. It's just it will squeeze in, but it's just going to be too tight. That is so frustrating. So I'm going to put that to one side, because we'll do the ones that we can do normally. I would imagine that the second book is almost, this is in 2 volumes, you see. They're almost exactly the same size. This one of my all-time favourites, is actually slightly thinner. So this should go in without any issue. Yeah, it's tight, but it's in. Yeah, very, very nice. The violet colour. I'm quite annoyed that they don't fit in. Yeah, see, that's all right. And this one, there's no dust wrapper. Of course, those other ones do have dust wrappers. This one should go in just about. Yeah, it lays flat. That's the main thing. It lays completely flat. I don't want it curling up or feeling sort of under pressure when I seal it up, but that actually feels all right. So that's about the limit, which, when you think about it, that's not that thick, is it? That is not that thick of a book. No. So what are we supposed to do with all the big thick ones, except go down the comic book route, which is what we're doing now? It just doesn't seem quite right to me. I think there must be a manufacturer who makes paperback bags that are a bit wider, a bit more generous for these really early ones from the 30s, you know. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. And if so, are they available through some of the regular sources like Amazon, for example? There we are. Spelling the air. Let's make sure I put enough to go over the flap like that. Now I'm not sure what's going to run out first. Time or my sellotape. I did buy a brand new roll, so I think the sellotape is probably going to last okay. I think it said it was, how many meters is it? Quite a few. Even though it's only a small roll of Scotch, it's one of these ones, this Scotch tape. I think it says 3M, but I don't think that means 3 meters. But what I was looking for was a big roll to put on my main dispenser here, but I just couldn't find one there. The only ones I could find were these little rolls, which was a little bit frustrating. So when you put stuff in these magazine bags, it is a little bit fiddly because the air just gets trapped and you've got to really force it out. Got it. There we are. Whoa. So when they're bagged up, they do lie quite flat, don't they? Lovely. Okay then, so let's do this. So I have decided I don't want this video going on for 2 hours, which I think it very easily could. So what we'll do, we're just going to stick to, for now, the first 50, and we're up to number 37. So I'll get the first 50 done. And I think we'll call it a day there. And if you do want to see some more of these sorts of videos, because I'm going to have to be doing it anyway, then I might as well film the process as well. So you get to have another little look at these gorgeous books, really, you know, which I think we don't need much of an excuse to look at old penguins, do we? Let's be honest. So we love them so much, at least on this channel. There we are. Right. But yeah, I think probably the first 50. The first 100 was a little bit optimistic. I wasn't so sure. Didn't know how long it was quite going to take. If you bag up 100 comics, that doesn't take long at all, does it? But 100 paperbacks, particularly when we have to do some which are a little bit more fiddly, then they do take a little bit more time. But if you've enjoyed this, let me know. Leave a thumbs up, and I'll do a second video, and I'll film bagging up numbers 51 to 100 with a couple of, once again, variations and things. So I am here to please, so just let me know. A really nice distinctive green. It's just gorgeous, isn't it? It is gorgeous. Now this one, oh, not so sure. I was just looking at the bag on these. So the actual, if you have a look at those, it says 5 inches by 7 3/8 of an inch with a 2-inch flap. And they're 2 millimeters thin. I just think they're too, yeah, this isn't going to fit. That's going to be a comic bag. They're just too darn tight for their own good. At least for this level of paperback, you know, from these early ones, these early days. I think certainly when you pop it into the bag, just sort of curling the book slightly doesn't help it slide in a little bit. Then you can flatten it out, of course, like we've just done. And then the 2-inch flap is perfect. That's just what I'm sort of looking for my fingers, you know. Give it another push down like that. But yeah, these are the ones I've been getting. But I just think if you can find some which are a little bit wider, because 7 3/4/8 is the height. We need them slightly wider, and I think they'd be onto a winner then, you know. And because they pretty much fit all my paperbacks. And I mean, my Albatross books, I don't think any of them would really fit in these bags. my vintage Albatross, I think they'd all be too big. Just because they're just ever so slightly bigger than a modern day A format book, you know what I mean? Right, so I twisted that one slightly to get it in, but now that it's in, it lies completely flat. And that, I think, is perhaps the key, so that you're not doing any... You wouldn't want to squish it in and then have the book over time, you know, become damaged and twisted. There we are. So we need to go back and do this one into a comic bag. But I think it's been quite a valuable exercise. I've learned quite a bit. I hope you've enjoyed seeing these getting done as well. It's not every day you get to look at the first 50 original Penguin books. And if you're a collector, you'll know that some of these that we've seen today are pretty scarce books, and others perhaps not so, but they're all equally lovely in my eyes. And yeah, I'd love to have the opportunity to upgrade some of them to better copies, but ultimately, as a collector, I'm just happy to own them. You know, even if they're not in top shape, that's not my biggest priority. It's just to have a copy of it in the collection. That's my main job, first of all. You know, as a Penguin collector, at least I own a copy of it. Upgrades can come in the future. There we are, 33 to 37, so just 13 to go. That won't take too long. Let's get the next 5 out. Walter de la Mare. But yeah, if you were doing, say, the first 100 Puffin books, none of them would be a problem. They'd all slide into the bags absolutely lovely. So it's just these early Penguins. They're just not uniform like a more modern book would be. You know, even a book from 10 years later would be more uniform than what we're dealing with here today. This one should be okay. The Wallet of Kevung. Now this one, yeah, I think it'd be okay. Not so sure about chrome yellow, but number 40 here, Dodo, should be alright. Get that straighten out. Yeah, just. Lovely. Now, that one I believe is going to be, I don't know, it's actually a little bit borderline. The dust wrapper doesn't sit all the way around it quite comfortably, so it's making it a little bit wider than it should be. It might fit, but I'm not going to force it. I suspect it's probably going to be better off in a mag bag, but we'll just see if it does go in or not. Give it a lie for that. I think it might be alright. Just see if that evens itself out. Straightens it out a bit. Is that going to be alright? Yeah, just lies flat. You can see the little overhang of the dust wrapper, but the main thing is it's lying flat. So yeah, we got away with that one. That was quite lucky. Yeah, he's alright. Yeah, this is another one which may be a tiny bit too wide. They have to go in a magazine, a comic bag rather. Yeah. A little too tight, so not worth forcing it through. Wow, that made a little whistle. Definitely got the air out there. Yeah, there we are. Quite nice and flat. Excellent. And the last few. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, up to number 50. So this is what we got left to do. So we do them in batches of 4 again. This is 43 to 46. Hoping that will this one should hopefully just fit in. Yeah. Nice. The same with this one. Hopefully it just fits in. No, I think, is it going to flatten itself out? Oh yeah, it has. It does lie. Is that flat? just. If it was any tighter, I'd put it in a mag bag. But that is flat. That's okay. This one may be too thick, I think. He's too big, is he? Oh no, there we are. I guess because it doesn't have a dust wrapper, it slid in quite nicely there. Glenna weeping. This one should go in okay. Number 46. Yeah, these have gone in a little bit smoother. Maybe already there's been a slight change in format, ever so slightly, and the books aren't quite as wide as those early ones. Maybe. Don't know. Okay. We got the last 4 to do here. So 47, 48, 49 and 50. And next time we'll do 51 to 100, but I think that'll be in another video now. This has gone on long enough, and it'll give me a little bit of time to see if I can track down any more paperbacks, paperback bags that are a tiny bit wider. But I would appreciate if you know of any in the comments. Just leave some info in the comments about perhaps where you can get slightly wider bags that might fit these, very early 1930s paperbacks a little bit better than the ones that I've got, which evidently some of them obviously been struggling a little bit. Passage to India. Yeah, that's all right. Lovely, that's 48. Now, this, I don't know. It just seems a bit thick to me. So whether it will slide in or not. Yes, it does. I think it's possibly because there isn't any dust wrapper around it. That does seem to add an extra level of thickness, of course. So that looks all right, doesn't it? Lovely. So, as we do the very last one, I hope you've enjoyed looking through these first 50 vintage penguins, the first 50 ever published. Look at that lovely one in a dust wrapper. And if you have and you like it, let me know. I'll do the next 50 on film, and I'll release those in a few weeks' time. In the meantime, I'm going to do a little bit more research on the bag front to see if we can find some that are ever so slightly wider, maybe. And yeah, do leave a comment down below. If you've not already, do please subscribe to the channel. Lots and lots and lots of vintage paperback content. It's predominantly the main thing I do on the channel now, though I do cover other bits and pieces as well. And yeah, do of course hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage paperback content. And I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.